Good afternoon, and welcome to Straight Talking with Kelly. Join me today and welcome Michael Aczon. Michael is an entertainment lawyer. He's an artist manager, educator, and author with over 40 years in the music industry. Michael has worked across recording, publishing, touring, and media, advising everyone from independent artists to global companies. He's also the author of The Musician's Legal Companion, which is widely regarded as a must-read for artists. He's a former writer for Guitar Player magazine and a longtime educator and speaker at colleges, law schools, and industry events nationwide. Welcome, Michael Aczon.
Hey, Kelly.
This is going to be so much fun. Now, I do not call you Michael Aczon. I call you Michael A.
Okay.
So, people, I will be calling him Michael A, and you'll find out why I can get to do that, okay? So, Michael, let's stroll down memory lane a little bit before we tackle our topic of educating the next generation of artists, okay?
Well, you're scaring me now.
So when I was coming up with this stuff, I'm like, okay, so what are we going to talk about? There's so much, you know, um, and so I did write a couple of notes just to kind of help me going. So I remember, well, first, let me just let the people know that you're not just a business colleague, you're not just a friend, but you're also family.
Oh, yes, we are.
So, our relationship goes back so far, and we'll get to talk about that as we continue with the interview. But what I want to say to my audience is that when I was pursuing my degree at San Francisco State University, I was pursuing a degree in music business management and public relations. So I did a double major like. And one of my classes was with Michael, the artist management class. And I cannot tell you guys what a challenge that class was for me because it really made me think about why I wanted to be an artist manager and what it really entailed. And of course, you know, I wasn't expecting any favors from Michael, and trust me, he didn't give me none either. But Michael, so tell me, what do you remember about that class? I remember my report that I had to turn in. I was so
I,
proud of that report.
I do remember it. I remember how proud I was that you did it. I also remember that you came to a history course that I taught, and
I
and
forgot about that.
my kids were just little kids. But I remember you came in and talked about Motown.
Yes.
You gave this talk about the history of Motown, and that's one of the biggest things that I remember about that class, and you taking that management class, because an artist manager has to be passionate about their work.
Yes.
The most effective ones and the ones that go on to do something else, and they passionately love music first and the creation of music. And that's how they could take the careers and guide people in those who were in that place. But
Yeah.
that's what you brought into that classroom too. You brought that passion in every time.
Yeah.
You could
Well,
just
I
tell.
was amazed that so many of your students didn't know who Barry Gordy was.
Oh, tell me.
And then that's when I said, okay, so this is a new generation, and they're not expected to really know him either. And this is why educating and people talking about all of these great artists, we have to keep educating these folks. But
Oh,
then, so people that know me, that go to my Facebook page, when you see that poster behind me with all the Motown acts and things on it, that's a poster I created for that class with
that's right.
Michael. So that was for that. So yeah, it was a wonderful thing. Barry Gordy happened to be somebody that I idolized um, at one time, and I was fortunate enough to have met him as well. And when I say sometimes, that's a whole nother story. Maybe Michael, you and I can come back and we can talk about Motown and Barry Gordy and some of the things that um, happened during that his reign as the king of music, because
Oh,
that's really
I
what
would
he
love
did.
to come back and just chop it up with you at any time. You know that.
Yeah, but Barry Gordy is definitely somebody that really needs to be dissected because
Yeah.
there's so much to him and what he brought to America. He brought music that is everlasting to this day. Anyways, let's get started with you. So, Michael, before we get into our conversation, I want you to tell the people where you're from, where you grew up, and the schools that you attended.
Oh my gosh. Well, I grew up in San Francisco. I was actually born in Hawaii, and I'm a Navy brat. So we bounced all over the country, and I eventually ended up in San Francisco, in the 94124, Hunters Point, San Francisco. We
All
lived in
right
the
now.
projects. After we lived in the projects, my parents bought a little house in the Bayview, and that's where I grew up. Went to schools right around the area, and this was really kind of the start of my musical life. I say this all the time. I started playing music like a lot of people do. They have music programs at the public schools. My grandson's doing it right now. He goes to Berkeley, goes to school in Berkeley, and you
Okay.
could play at these public schools. And I started playing music, and from that, our little kind of our little neighborhood in Hunters Point, I started meeting kids from other parts of the city.
Okay.
And I mean, I didn't even know these other parts of the city existed. And then when I was in junior high school, I, I, I found out that Lowell High School in San Francisco had an orchestra, like a 101 piece orchestra. So I
Oh,
asked my counselor in junior high school how I can get there. I said, that's what I want to do. I want to go there and play the French horn. And he looked at my grades. He said, oh, yeah, you can do that. So I ended up at Lowell High School, and I had no idea. That's where I met you,
no,
right?
I went
We
to Lowell
met
as
in
well.
high school.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it, I mean, I'm pausing because I mean, it really kind of saved my life. A lot of people talk about neighborhoods like Hunters Point, and there are neighborhoods like this all around the country. I know people from all over the country are watching this. So everybody knows that there are those neighborhoods where they're not giving you a chance to do anything.
Hmm.
And Hunters Point was definitely one of those in San Francisco. Um, so I had no idea that Lowell High School was a prep school. I had no idea that 99% of our class went to college.
You were like me. I didn't know anything about Lowell either.
But I was there for music, and I tell people all the time that saved my life because while I was there, I went, I want to be around music people as long as I could be around music people. And that's when I
Yeah.
decided. I was a junior at Lowell, and I decided that somehow, some way, I was going to get a career in the music industry. So I went right from there to college, graduated from UC Berkeley. I did a very San Francisco thing, and then right after I got out of UC Berkeley, went to University of San Francisco, and I bombed right through. Nobody from my family graduated from college, so I didn't know that I didn't even know you had to do 4 years of college before you did 3 years of law school. But I went, all I was trying to do is get in the music business, Kelly.
Ah,
So
you
anyway,
learned
that's
quickly, didn't
it.
you? You learned quickly, didn't you? Well, you know what the
Yeah,
funny thing is? Let's go back a little bit to your childhood because
sure.
when you said that you met me at Lowell, which was true, but what we didn't realize years later was that you grew up around the corner and you knew my husband and his family
Right around the corner.
right around the corner. And then we're going to talk about the simple fact that when you, and I wish I had posted the picture, but I did not, but I will have it posted at some point um, when I'm promoting your video.
Right?
Let's talk about Prime Suspect.
Oh my God. Oh goodness. Well, again, as I said, when I started college, actually, I'm going to back up a little bit further because my older brother played in a band from Hunters Point called HP Riot,
Okay, I remember
and
HB, right? I went to school with Dwayne.
that's right,
Yeah,
in
Dwayne Sweet.
Minneapolis, and
Uh-huh.
um, so they were already on the road. So I already got a sense of what the music business was about. They were making records. We were still at Lowell. They were making records. They were touring. They moved to Los Angeles. They moved to Canada. Um, and I really started to get this sense of what the business is about, how nasty the music business can be, how you can do all of that stuff, put records out and have, promoters steal from you and a record company steal from you. And I was going, okay, I shouldn't even say that on recorded. something
Well,
as
people
important.
know
But
about it
you
now.
get the idea.
Yeah, well, people know now what the music business is like. It was noticed this
But
longer a secret.
yeah, but I wanted to play, and at that time I was playing the trombone. I moved from French horn to trombone because it's kind of a cooler instrument to play, easier to carry around. And I ended up joining this band out of another one of those cool neighborhoods in San Francisco, the Lakeview. And lo and behold, your brother was in the band. Your brother Philip was in the band, and your two cousins, Benny and Barry, were in the band, and we had the best of times.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and I really learned, I mean, that's where I really learned the music business because the guys handed me the keys and they let me manage the band. Um, and I learned really a lot. I learned about negotiating. I learned about uh, promotions, imaging, all of that stuff.
Well, you know what the funny part is when you guys see this picture, Michael, when I looked at the picture the other day, I couldn't do nothing but laugh because here you are surrounded by all these black men, and you got on this white suit, this long black hair, looking like John Travolta, getting ready to do Saturday Night Live. I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this picture?
Right. If he's going to stick out, he really better stick out.
I mean, and you definitely did. So I love that picture. So I can't wait to show that to everyone because I think
Oh,
they'll get a kick out of it.
and it was funny, even that picture. I mean, when you think about um, that photograph was shot in the parking lot at
850
the
Bryant.
Hall of Justice,
Yep,
850
850
Bryant.
Bryant.
So here's this band called Prime Suspect, and 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 I remember I was managing, right? And I
Oh my
said, why
God.
don't we take our promo photos at the Hall of Justice? And I mean, talk about negotiating. We talked the cops into letting us use their parking lot to shoot our pride. You know, like
And you guys are in front of a police car. That's on top
absolutely.
of it. Oh my
They,
God.
they wouldn't let you like you couldn't do that. Now you can't.
Yeah, yeah. No, I thought it was great. And I used to actually work at 850 Bryan. I
Oh,
worked
did
in
you?
identification. Yes, I did. Yes,
Yeah.
I did right after I graduated from high
But
school.
I think that's a great thing about the music industry or any industry where you're really kind of shooting for the moment that like look at how people in the tech industry do it.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
big ambitions, big dreams, and a little bit of naivete, and you'll try anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Michael, the interesting thing too, so in high school, we didn't have a lot of interaction with each other. And so after, I think you were ahead of me. So after you graduated, we didn't see each other, right?
Oh, no.
And then I didn't get involved into the music industry until one of my cousins that I didn't know, my mother had made this connection with the long lost cousin. I don't, and she goes, he's in the music industry. He needs your help. And I'm like, I don't know anything about the music industry. And he actually said, well, you look smart enough, like you can figure this out. And I was like, okay. Uh, and so that's how I got involved. So I started, studying and reading and learning and doing all of this stuff. And I got involved with California Lawyers for the Arts. They were having some kind of seminar, and I come to the seminar. And who's teaching the class but you?
That's right.
When you saw me walk through that door, you literally stopped the class and just started having this catch up time with me, and then we have been rocking and rolling ever since. And we've
Ever
done
since.
so many programs together, so many things. Then I remember when I was involved with the Recording Academy, when I became a board of governors and stuff, and I was like, Michael, I want you to join. And you're like, I don't know about this, Callie. And I'm like, Michael, please join. You joined. And then you, Larry, and I became the co-chairs of the Urban Outreach Committee. Remember that?
Yep.
That was very important for me
Oh, me too.
because when I remember when Kent Simmons approached me, he was the executive director before Merle Saunders. He's the
Hmm.
one that says, Kelly, I want you to become a board of governor. And I'm like, why? He says, because I know that you're going to get something done. You're going to make something happen. And I was like, okay.
Hmm.
And I knew what he meant once I got in there.
Hmm.
And so the first thing I did ask them, I said, what have you guys been doing in the African American community? And it got silent.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? It's time. And so because I was not a voting member, I could not, there were certain things I couldn't do. So I said, well, I can fix that. So I got you and Larry Batiste to become the co-chairs with me. And that's when we really made some magic happen.
Oh, absolutely.
We did the
Absolutely.
up close, that our first event was the up close and personal with what was it? Jimmy Jam.
Yeah,
And then we start touring, and then we start getting more people of color to become members of that organization.
that's right.
I
And
remember
and
that.
look, just what you were saying about Berry Gordy. Look at what it does historically today. And this is the thing that people have to getting into the industry. That's why they have to understand history.
Yeah,
Look at today.
yeah,
Today, Kev Choice, who's African American, is president of the Recording Academy now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Kev, an
yeah,
extraordinary musician and just amazing guy, right? He does hip hop, he does jazz, he does classical.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and Kev is just an extraordinary human being, an extraordinary musician, and you laid that groundwork. You
Well,
know,
you
like
know what?
it's commonplace today. People are like, oh, of course, Kev Choice is, but like if you wind the clock back when we were there, like what? Wait a minute,
Right,
president? Are you kidding? There aren't enough people here. There
right.
aren't enough people of color here to
Yeah,
have
yeah.
one of them be president, you know?
Right, right. No, so that was definitely something that was just very, very deep to me. And, anyways, I don't even want to talk about the Recording Academy because I still have my feelings about how I think it's ran. But I'm happy to hear that they are making changes because
Oh,
after
absolutely.
I left, I totally just left all of it, even the television. I don't even watch it on TV.
Hmm.
But I'm glad that it's making a difference because it needed to. I think all of
Hmm.
those award shows can do better than what they do.
Hmm.
Really do. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some of the stuff that these people want to hear. So, Michael, you've worked in the music industry for over 40 years. What's the biggest change that you've seen that most artists still don't get?
It's a great question. And it's the biggest change in today's music business is that they're independent artists,
Okay.
and the people who want to do business with them now, including the majors, it's about partnering now.
Hmm.
And so
What do you
um,
mean by that, partnering? What do
I
you?
mean they even use that language. I mean, I'm doing a couple major label things now. Major, when I say major label, I'm talking about major labels, major publishing companies, touring companies. They really put it in terms of partnering with an artist. So
As
it's not
before, but what did they say before? What was it before?
we're acquiring you.
Ah,
It's
okay.
about acquiring talent before.
Okay.
So, and that dream that people used to have, including Prime Suspect, right?
Okay.
I'm going to play, I'm going to do my thing. Barry Gordy's going to see me, and now they are going to essentially acquire me, right? They're going to
Right.
buy my services. They're going to groom me. They're going to do all that thing. They're going to push me out there to the universe. And I'm not going to say that no longer happens at all, but it's less likely that that's going to happen. And the reason is more artists are taking the responsibility, and it's a true responsibility.
Hmm.
They're taking on the responsibility of getting from zero to, I don't know, 60, maybe zero to 80.
Okay.
And then the majors come along. And when I say a major, just someone else. It doesn't have to be a major. It could
Okay.
be an independent label. It could be the right manager. Whoever it is, they come along and now what they want to do is partner with you. Hey, Kelly, we see what you're doing. We see that you've gotten a start. You have an audience.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
have found a way to make people look. You've gotten some engagement. And then that entity, whoever it is, could be a manager, could be a publishing company, could be a distribution company, could be a record label. Then they say, we'd like to partner with you. We would like to help you get from where you are to a bigger place, to a bigger audience. Now, when the artist doesn't take the time to learn what all those people, what those other companies are doing,
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest issue. It's been my issue all along. That's why I go into this I do so much education Because when they do come along and you don't know what they're doing, it astounds me that some people are like, I really don't know what a publishing company does. Right. And now a publishing company wants to make a deal with me. Like, are you actually going to make a deal with somebody and you have no idea what they do? It's
Yeah.
like buying insurance and you don't know what an insurance company does.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is the biggest change. The biggest change is the other people who want to join your independent thing. And it's a good thing. And that's why some people are like, I want to be independent, and they're scared of everybody else. It's like you don't have to be scared if you actually know what they do
Yeah.
and you ask the right questions. So it's a huge responsibility.
Now, so as you said that, the first thing that went through my mind, I have a book collection that's out of this world. You know
Oh,
that.
I know you do.
And not just music books, but just I like to read. So I have all types of books. But when I think about that, I start thinking about my music publishing books. I start thinking about all the artist management books. There are books out there
Yeah.
that people can read to, to learn about the business.
Yeah.
I don't understand. People don't read anymore, I don't guess.
I'm not going to make a sweeping statement like that, because it
And I
warms my
shouldn't
heart.
generalize that either, but I think for the most part, and that because I'm an educator too, and I taught at City
I
College for
know.
like
And
23
I hope we
years.
talk about
And
education.
I know that a lot of students do not read.
Right.
They just want the answers. They
Right.
want to know without doing the work themselves.
That's
So
it.
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But so what listening to you say that, so what was different in the 80s and 90s with the artists? What is they got it?
There was more, I'm about to make a sweeping statement, but there was just more engagement. And when I talk about engagement, I don't mean the engagement that people are using now, right?
Right,
Like I got a whole bunch of people looking at what I'm doing online.
right.
Real face to face, room to room, I'm playing in a band
Hmm.
engagement.
Yeah,
And I that's the biggest difference to
yeah,
me.
yeah,
That people are playing in bands and understanding like look, the Beatles broke up.
yeah,
The Temptations broke up, right? You go like, okay, I'm gonna be in a band. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna be here forever.
yeah,
And so if I'm nice and I understand business and I understand that business and personal are two different things, it's way easier to navigate. But in this world where everything, and again, that's a sweeping statement, but where most of it is online, I don't even know how to break up with somebody. You know what I mean?
right. Exactly,
I'll break up on
exactly.
the phone. Like, no, you're supposed to go to the park and, cry a little bit together or something. It's like it's no difference. It's about relationships. So
Yeah.
that to me is the biggest difference is that
Okay.
the human relationships, which is the essence of music anyway, right?
Right. You would think.
You
But
would
it
think.
just goes back to what you said earlier when you said that back then the record labels engaged you, where now they partner with you.
Correct.
That means you got to do a lot of the work before anybody even pays attention to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with all that change, not everyone makes it through the long haul, and that brings me to my next question. You've advised everyone from unsigned to local artists to global companies. What separates artists who build longevity from those who burn out?
You know, you should. I'm going to eventually toss this back to you, right? Because one
Hmm.
of the things that you and I did together is you remember I told you I need a makeover. I got it,
Yes, I remember.
and your lessons from that makeover, and I'd love for you to say this after I address this question, right? But one of the biggest questions that you had in that questionnaire that I had was you had me dress myself from the inside out.
Yep.
And you asked some questions, and this goes back to that management class too, because you and I asked the same questions. I remember reading that questionnaire. And what's she talking about? What does this have to do with my haircut? What does this have to do with, with what jacket I wear to an industry event?
Right.
But it really took that inner look at my soul. So that thing that results in longevity in everything
Hmm.
is the why.
Yeah.
I work with just one. I'm tearing up. I'm talking about her because I love her so much. This sister of mine named Ayana, and she does this inner work with artists, and she knows how to cut to it really fast, right? But it's that inner work of why are you doing this in the first place? And it's the ones that understand the why. And it doesn't even have to be. It's so often people are thinking like, oh, I want to be, I want to save the world or whatever. It doesn't have to be. There's no right answer.
Hmm.
Even if your why is I want to walk down the street and I want everybody to know who I am. And some people go like, what kind of egotistical thing is that? At least you know your why,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know? So it's the people who really understand the artists, who really understand their why. Those are the ones that last the longest because believe me, the times are going to get rough, right? They're going to get rough. And companies, you said I do stuff with global companies. Yeah. What happens when a global company is sitting there going, we might not make payroll?
Right.
It's like, this isn't looking good. What do they have to do? They have to go back to their why. Why did we start this company anyway? And the ones that understand the why we started this company anyway, they're going to like, hey, we're going to have to make some real decisions here. They're not easy decisions. We're going to have to move to another location. We're going to have to downsize. We're going to have to let some people go. Whatever it is, they at least understand their why. And then 3 years later, they're back. They're hiring people back and they're doing okay.
Yeah. 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 Wow.
But you do the same thing, right?
Well,
And,
well,
and, and
and that's what I did with the Tonys, Tony.
yeah,
When Carlos asked me to come and work with the boys, yeah, and the dressing up from the inside out, that's my signature program that I work with young girls, building their self-esteem. So it is
mhm,
so important that you do work with the inside first.
mhm,
And what I see happen a lot is that people do reach that success, but then they crash
yeah,
because of who knows what.
yeah. Well, sometimes it happens too fast.
Yeah, yeah,
One of the tough things in our industry is it can happen real fast. You
yeah.
can go from zero to hero, and you can see it all the time.
Oh, yeah. And if you're
When
not, if you know what, and I'm glad you said that because they're not prepared for that.
as a human being, I mean, you're talking about as a person.
Yep.
They're prepared for it as an artist, but they're
Yeah,
not prepared for it as a person.
yeah. It's a lot of pressure.
Oh, it's huge pressure.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
and I'm not going to name names, but I remember one time watching the Grammy Awards, and this person won a Grammy, and she was giving this speech, and it was one of the most touching and sad speeches I've ever seen at the Grammys,
Oh,
because you
really?
could tell
Okay.
she was telling the God honest truth, and she was saying, I don't even know why I'm here. I put out this record, everything happened, and then I people just started telling me what to do. I was showing up here. I mean, now you're going on tour, right? You don't know what you're doing. I'm just going from city to city to city. I'm promoting this record. I'm doing all of this stuff. And then she says, and then I got nominated for this, and then I won this. And so she says, I'm supposed to tell you something other than I don't know what's happening.
See, and this is where I think a really good manager comes in because I know when I managed artists, I would definitely prepare them as much as I possibly could for the real world.
Sure.
And I think a real good manager should do that.
Yeah.
I
And
don't think I don't think that girl should have been able to go on stage without having a speech ready,
sure.
just in case. If, I mean, just do it. I want you to write it just in case you win.
Yeah.
So if she does come up there and she does win, then she's not stumbling like that.
Right. Or, and there's a difference between a good man, uh, there's a difference between a good manager and a caring manager.
And there is the word, caring.
Yeah. Now, if you're both, then you're in heaven,
That makes
right?
it better. Absolutely. Because
Then
you
you're
got
in
the
heaven. But
business side being taken care of, and you got the humanistic part being taken care of.
I mean, I know some managers, and they're not bad human beings, but they're like, I don't get close to my clients at all,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's literally just business. And
I don't
again,
understand that because you are, this is this, anyways. I, I,
well, hey, yeah, you're talking about Mr. Family Manager. I mean, the people that I've managed, I mean, I've been in there for decades,
right,
right?
exactly,
And when you're
exactly.
starting out and you go, wow, if we can get a 5-year run out of this, we're doing okay. And then all of a sudden you hit 10 and you go like, this is a pretty decent run.
Well, exactly. So you're
And
that, and again, it goes back to the relationship.
yeah,
It's really a relationship. It's not just a business transaction.
right. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, you can have both. And that's another thing that I think I keep I keep coming back to your different questions. One of the things that makes people have longevity are mentors.
Oh,
I,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, and very often I think what artists do is they feel, and I'm making a sweeping statement here, but I've been subject to this a number of times. When somebody comes to me and they say, "You're my mentor," like, no, I'm not, right? Mentors choose you.
Hmm.
The mentor finds the mentee. They're like, I think you've got something going on here. This is not a business decision. This is not a business thing. Just call me up if you need help,
Yeah.
right? And often what the emerging artists, especially today, do is they go, "Oh, I need to find a mentor. So I'm gonna like you're hiring a mentor. You're not hiring a mentor, right? Somebody who's going to really care about you and they have no business relationship with you. They just want you to be okay.
Yeah.
And I know I've had the best. I mean, I like you, and you know him,
Yeah.
but
Oh, absolutely.
and this person just opened so many doors. And when I say open doors, it wasn't like I'm going to walk you in and you're going to make $1 gajillion, right? Or I'm going to hand you this great, contact. He opened doors to education. Here's how this works. Like I can see that you understand how this works, but let me open the doors, so you can actually see what's happening backstage. And that's golden. You can't buy
Mhm.
that. Yeah, it's not for sale.
Yeah. All right. Wow, that was pretty deep, Mike. So a lot of this comes down to understanding the business, and you literally wrote a book on that. So you wrote The Musician's Legal Companion to demystify the business. What's the one legal issue every artist should understand before releasing music? What
Music
should you
publishing.
know?
I just like that.
You just said that again,
Oh yeah,
huh?
I will not. it- I taught music publishing for 25 years at San Francisco State. Um, it astounds me that emerging artists don't take the time out to really understand the business side of buying and selling songs. I mean, look, we keep going back to Barry Gordy, right? They sold the recordings way before they sold the songs. Why? Because the songs are going to last forever. And when you think about songs, right? I remember reading, I was on a business trip one time and I'm on a plane. And I was reading this article. I mean, I know I'm going slightly sideways here, Kelly, but work with me. But I
Okay,
was
I'm
reading this
working.
article about this retail genius. And this retail genius was going, I want to do retail, but I'm looking for something that takes up, like some product that takes up the smallest amount of of inventory space, right?
Mhm.
It can't take up a lot of space because I don't want to buy a whole store in a mall. All I want to buy is the intersections. So I want a little place in the middle of a mall that's the intersection that everybody has to pass by. So, so the product has to be really tiny. It can't take up a lot of space. And then that became it, right? It's not gonna take up space, right? And he's thinking about it, what's gonna work. And then he thought jewelry, but then jewelry, you got to deal with it's jewelry. So now you have to deal with the security issue. That wasn't it. He came up with sunglasses. I don't know if you remember, I forgot what the business was, but almost every mall in the country had a sunglass place, right?
Mhm.
So as small as that is, and as much money as sunglasses in the mall can make, songs don't take up any space. They don't take up space at all.
Hmm.
And it makes millions of dollars. So I firmly believe that learning anything about music publishing as much as you possibly can is the way to go.
Now, Michael, so let's talk about music publishing because you know what? I've been out of the music industry for a minute now, so I don't really know how half of it
Sure.
works anymore. But I remember publishing was like the gold ring
Yeah.
that the music execs held on to it as long as possible and would do anything to keep it.
Yes.
And then Prince came along. I don't know if it was Prince or Michael who started that. I want my publishing.
Hmm. Well,
And that changed the dynamics of how publishing. So, and I hear now where people are getting their publishing rights back.
sure.
What is that all?
I,
Tell me, let's talk about that.
yeah, let's do it, real nutshell, right?
Okay.
And it is this interesting thing about having lasted this long in the music industry. When I was going to law school, um, that's when the current copyright law was enacted while I was in law school. And again, one of my early mentors told me that. He says, this is great. He was going, you don't even have to understand the old copyright law. You're coming out of law school as much of an expert as me because it's a brand new copyright law.
Hmm.
And one of the things, so I'm just going to address the termination. One of the things that was included in the current copyright law was the ability to terminate the rights that you granted away. So, and these rights are rolling now. So songs and recordings that were, because there are two different kinds of copyrights. We're only going to talk about songs for the moment, right?
Mhm.
But the copyrights in the songs, that's the music publishing side of it. So if somebody gave their songs away or sold them to a publishing company,
Right.
now, and this is rolling because it's 35 years from when you made the grant, you can get those songs back. And that's where we're seeing a lot of artists that are getting
Okay.
those songs
Okay.
back.
Okay.
One of the companies that I work for, and this is really important. And this is, once again, the thing that I love about how dynamic the music industry is. They represent the catalog of a songwriter from the 70s I mean, he's 75 years old. So here's a guy who's turned 75, right? And a number of hip hop artists, well, not even hip hop artists, a number of artists generally are sampling his material now.
Oh, wow.
So here's this 75-year-old man, songwriter,
That's
who
awesome.
understands the music business, surrounded himself with the right people, including these clients that I work with. And they are now, I mean, and I'm literally talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars
Wow.
because artists are sampling his work from the 70s. So
Wow.
yeah,
Never too late, huh?
it's never too late. It's never
Wow. That's beautiful.
it is beautiful. And I think that's the cool thing about it. So the whole in a nutshell, every time your song is used, if it's recorded, if it's played on TV, if it's in a movie, this is all the synchronization stuff, all of that, it generates royalties. And to be fair, and this is another thing about the dynamics of the music industry, there's a lot of stuff going back and forth about how the streaming companies aren't paying enough money. They're not. They're not. It's not trickling down to the people who are creating the music.
Yeah, so how are they
Um,
making the money these days then?
you mean from songs?
Yeah.
Well, they're making it, but they're not making as much as they used to.
So like the songs on Spotify, they're not
Oh, they're generating income,
okay.
but not the wild income that used to be generated when people were selling
So
CDs.
they still have to go out for concerts and things like that to
Correct.
make the ends meet.
And that's another one of the things, I continually answering all of your questions at the same time. That's another thing that I think artists have to take into the longevity factor.
Yeah.
The artist today, as opposed to the artist of yesterday, the artist today really has to understand that if I'm going to have longevity, I've got to build this audience and I'd really better get my live thing together because now that's what the managers are looking for. I feel that managers are looking for that more than anything else.
What, the live streams?
No, not live streams, people who can play live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're called hard ticket sales. This is a
Okay.
hard ticket sale artist. There's a
Okay.
manager that I know very successful. They gave the music away. We're just going to assume we're not going to make a nickel from streaming. We're not going to make a nickel from streaming. We're not going to make a nickel from CDs. That was their business plan. But they were young, aggressive managers who just said, we're going to make it on building an audience, and we're going to come back to that audience year after year after year. And they've made they do wildly well with it because that was their business plan. Their business plan was audiences were going to want to see this band over and over. And but this isn't anything new. The
But,
Grateful Dead did it.
well, you know what? I just can't believe nowadays how much concert tickets are.
Yeah.
I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me.
But that's the concert tickets for the big, huge artists.
Yeah, but still, I like really.
Yeah. Well, that's what and again, the music business is reflective of society,
Yeah,
right? So
absolutely.
if the music business is reflective of society, we're talking about the 1%. You're talking about the 1% of concert tickets. You know, and then you have to play to, what do people want to be a VIP. I went to an event, I'm not going to say what it was. I went to an event recently and they had a VIP line. I was like, everybody's in the VIP line. Why? Everybody's in the VIP line because everybody wants to be a VIP.
Oh, that is hilarious.
No, it was. I was like, the VIP line is bigger than the civilian line.
That
Because
is so funny.
right, because everybody wants to be a VIP.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to jack up the tickets, right?
Hmm.
There's well, I'll give you some real insight. I heard this great one the other day about this big rock band. I'm not going to say who they were. They're making money from the artists that are opening for them. So now you have these emerging artists who pay to get on a tour.
Wait a minute. Back up. Wait a minute.
I
You know
know
what?
it's crazy.
Well, as soon as you said that, the first thing that came to my mind was Prince and Rick James.
Uh-huh.
Could not see Prince paying Rick James to open up for him.
Oh,
Not,
absolutely. But
not gonna happen.
and that's what I love. I love opening the doors when I see students and they go like, "Oh, I went to a concert and I paid like $100 for a concert." And then there were two bands that I didn't even know who they were, right? And I was going, "Yeah, because they paid to get on the tour."
Wow, that's wow.
Yeah.
It's really changed, huh?
Oh, life has changed. But that's the thing. Don't what do they say? Don't get mad at the player, get mad at the game.
Right. Don't hate the player.
Yeah.
I hate the
Shows
game.
you how
Yeah,
shows you how square I am. I went to Lowell High
right.
School.
So did I. I went to Low too, but you know what? I grew up in St. Louis,
There
okay?
you go. But that is it, and I think that which is what I've dedicated my career to, at least the career part of it, is
Yeah.
the more you know, then you're like, okay, that's the way it is. Not that I have to totally accept it. I can sidestep that. I'll just work my way through it and figure it out. But learn how it works. Don't be surprised when nefarious, and there's nothing nefarious about what I just said. Right. I could go and open for somebody if I could pony up $200,000 to open for somebody on a tour.
Well, if
That's
it's
good.
just
Everybody wins.
$200, that's fine. But I'm
Oh, I
sure
said
that
200,000.
okay.
Right. I'm literally paying to go on the tour.
Oh,
Right.
see.
But
Okay.
that becomes, I mean, think about it. Let's go back to our earlier conversations. So I'm an artist and I've built up a following and I have a bunch of people who are online. And now an independent label comes along and says, you know what? Looks like you've got some action here. Looks like you're doing, like, and I'm not going to go into the details of the
Sure,
deal,
sure, sure.
right? But we are willing to pay this band $200,000 to put you on tour because we figure if you sell enough merchandise on that tour, we'll make our $200,000 back. We're all right. And if emerging artists understand that business transaction, then it's okay. Then they're
Yeah.
going, okay. We see that our label is investing in us and they are investing us to go on tour.
And they get exposure. They get
Yeah,
exposure and they can get a whole new group of people. So yeah, I mean, so I can see where it's kind of symbiotic.
absolutely. Oh no, it definitely is just business. And the more people understand how it works, then it sounds less slimy.
Michael, now I bet you do not have a copy of your book nowhere near you, do you?
Not right here. No.
See, I should have told you to bring it because would like for you to at least show what it looks like
I
done.
keep giving them away. I just keep giving them away.
How come I never got one?
Oh, now you're busting me right online. I'll get you one.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I remember when I got involved in the music industry, I remember reading this book called Platinum Rainbow.
Oh
Remember the
yeah.
Platinum Rainbow? The
Sure.
Platinum Rainbow is how I met Joe Buckwall.
Wow.
Because in the back of the Platinum Rainbow, there is a directory. And in that directory, it had a lot of, I was looking up artist managers and I wanted somebody close by because I said, I'm gonna get somebody to teach me. And of course, I saw Joe Buckwald.
Wow.
I had no clue who he was, right? But I called this man and told him that I was interested in becoming an artist manager and I needed some guidance, and he invited me to his house.
Wow.
I get to the house, I meet his beautiful wife, Jean Buckwall, who has all of these wonderful violet plants, and she had plates of Elvis Presley and just stuff, a lot of stuff, trains. They had all kinds of, the real toy trains covering the whole house. Come to find out, Joe Buckwall was Marty Ballin's dad.
Wow.
I didn't know who Marty Ballin was. And so he started having me listening to the Starship and all of this kind of stuff. And it was a wonderful relationship. I stayed in touch with him until he passed away. First, the wife passed away. And she's so funny. She was like, I was at the hospital with her and she's like, make sure you take care of Joe. And I'm like, oh, that's a big thing to ask. And so I kept in touch with Joe, but I would have kept in touch with him anyway. And Joe was phenomenal. He really helped me and taught me a lot. And then, of course, I did get to meet Marty. Marty was very shy, and at that time, Marty wasn't doing much. But the reason why I brought this up is because Marty Ballin never had to work again after he stopped doing music, which he never really did stop. But he did stop a while because he was an artist. He painted. But Joe Buckwall took such good care of that guy, his business end,
Absolutely.
that he never ever had to worry about anything again. And I remember when Joe was telling me when he got that movie made in Manhattan,
Oh yeah.
they played Marty's Balance, one of his, they, asked him if he could license the song to them to do that. And he did. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is so whenever I see Made in Manhattan and when that song comes on, and then Michael Jackson also did a cover of that very same song.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of people covered that song. So it always makes me think of Joe Buckwall and how I found him in a book.
And
And
see,
remember, I had him come to your class.
I remember that. Yeah. But you see, it's and something that you said that a number I'm just trying to give as much information to people who are emerging as possible. Look at everything you just said about Joe Buckwell. It had to do with him and his family as human beings. It wasn't about just the music business.
Mhm.
You're talking about the just that's how you connected. You connected as humans
Yeah.
first.
Oh,
When I
absolutely.
connect as a human first, then people will really want to help you. That's another thing. Artists, artists that I talk to now, many of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but many of them, they don't they don't even want to talk about music. They only want to talk about their music. It's like, like let's talk about something else first. Then let's talk about music.
Right.
Then we'll talk about your music, right?
Right. Right.
It's like
Well, you know what? They're just so eager.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was I'm hoping I get the quote right, and I'm hoping that I get the person who said it. But I believe it was Quincy Jones who said emerging artists are spending more time trying to get over than getting better. It's
Wow.
like get better and then you'll get
Wow.
over, right? Because now you're going to attract people who are going to want to help you. But along with what you were saying, there was this one A&R person that I thought was a genius. She is a genius. and I had a little bit of a connection, and this person was trying to get me in the door to meet her. So it took forever. And we were hitting and missing and hitting and missing and hitting and missing. And finally I got through. And her assistant said, you know what? I'll just use you, right? Kelly, like she knows you're trying to reach her. She says, I'm going to give you her cell phone number and you can call her. She's at home. I know she just left the office. She's at home right now. Why don't you give her a call? And she says, give me about 5 minutes. I'll call ahead and she'll know that you're calling. So she did it. And I got it. And then this person comes on the phone. This is one of the greatest A&R people on the planet.
Mhm.
And she says, I just had to get away from the office. And she says, I just like, I wanted to do something that had nothing to do with the music business. So she says, I'm home now and I'm doing my laundry.
Okay. Real life.
And then I said, so the first thing I said to this person that I always wanted to meet, right? I said, do you do the colored or do you do the white stuff first? And she says, what? And she says, wait a minute.
Mix
I
them
never,
all together. I
she
mix
says,
them all
oh
together.
my God. She said, I never thought about that. And she says, hang on a second. She's like, no, she's looking. And she's like,
Oh,
I
I
got,
hope she's separated.
oh yeah. She says, like, I got one pile to the left. And she says, I never thought about which one I do first.
How
And
funny.
she says, thank, and every conversation we had after that, she remembers that. Had
Mhm.
nothing to do with
Yeah.
here are the artists that you've worked with, here are the
Yeah.
deals you
Yeah.
worked on. It's like
Yeah.
this fool asked me if I did the colored clothes first or the white clothes first, right?
Well, I think nowadays social media kind of plays into this celebrity thing that we didn't have,
Right.
where, I guess people still idolized artists, but it wasn't like it is today. I don't think it is. I think
Mhm.
there's a difference in terms of how celebrities are seen,
Right.
and how people look up to them in a way where I don't need my celebrities to be spokespeople for political things or for things that are really are of importance that is out of their league.
Sure.
I don't need to see that. I really
Sure.
don't. I don't like that at all.
Sure.
Especially when it's not always intelligent.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, the interesting thing, and I mean, that's a whole different thing to get into social media, but um, generally speaking, especially I see this with students all the time, and I try to bring it all together for them because they talk about, well, the old music business, the new music business. I said, it's just the music business. Talent is talent. The ability to connect is the ability to connect. The ability to write a great song, record the great songs. That will never, ever, ever go away. And they have these, there are these new names. People call them viral moments. What's a viral moment? It's only the technology that makes it a viral moment. Nobody knew who Sly Stone was till he did Woodstock. Today, they would call that a viral moment. But
Mhm. Yeah.
we didn't have viral back then, but it was a viral moment. It was that, everybody knows who Sly Stone is now because it was that moment that he captured and said, okay, now that you know who I am, I can take that opportunity and build off of that.
Hmm.
And I think that in today's instantaneous world, people don't realize, or what they have to understand is if I do have a viral moment, now I have this opportunity to make a long range plan based on the viral moment. Uh, Otherwise, the viral moment comes and goes, right? I had it, I had a whole bunch of engagement, and if that's your business plan, then cool, then
Yeah.
great, then that's your business plan. But if it's not your business plan and you want to have a long term thing from it, then you have to say, okay, now everybody knows who I am. So let me extend that as long as I can, knowing that these 3 million people who are going to see me at this moment, if I can keep 300,000 of them, then I'm doing okay.
So, is your book far away from you?
Oh yeah, it's way far away. Yeah.
No, Michael. Okay, so what I was thinking, it's like, okay, so we talked about publishing. What chapter would you tell the audience after they read publishing? So we're not reading the book in order.
Okay. Oh
We're
yeah,
not reading the book in order because I need some information right now.
right.
What would be a good chapter for them to go to?
I'll tell you that, and I'm gonna give it to you so you can give it to everybody. It would, I'll just so when people come and watch you, they can just pull it down from it, right? I go right to the epilogue.
Oh,
That's my manifesto. And
okay.
what the epilogue is are lessons that I've learned from a number of people. And
Oh,
it just
nice.
has a whole bunch of lessons.
Nice.
And we all learn lessons from people, right? And that's what I want everybody to read. As a matter of fact, that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book because it was going like, oh, I just want people to read the lessons at the back, but you can't sell a 12-page manifesto, right? You have to write a book. That's what I learned about music publishing from all of the writing that I did for the magazines, right? Oh, okay.
Nice.
People taught me how to write a book. They taught me like this is what it's about. So I had to learn the music, I mean the book business before I put a book out. But
Mhm.
and to sum it all up, what the epilogue is about is life is about and the music industry is about relationships. If you have the right relationships, everything works.
You know
It's a
what? No, so
relationship
as
business.
you're talking, so many things come to my mind about you that I remember. I remember one of your favorite songs was Stand.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, I remember that. And then I also remember you, Benny, Barry, Philip. You could not tell you guys that Earth, Wind, and Fire wasn't the cat's meow.
Oh, absolutely. That was it. That was the world. And who, I mean, how many but that there's that thing about I'm almost speechless about that, right? That when an artist looks within, and people who are watching this, like you have to look at yourself and go, what am I trying to accomplish here?
Mhm.
Other than being famous and making a lot of money. And that's what I think people just have to remember. Like, see, the famous and a lot of money comes after you figure out what you're trying to do. I'm not going to give any kind of inside inside scoop here, but that became my obsession. Playing with those guys, playing with your brother and your cousins. It was literally an obsession. I have to meet Maurice White and I have to ask face to face, like, why are you putting these records out? I think I know. But
Mhm.
but you tell me, and you know this story, and I'll just cut to the chase. My best friend wrote their comeback record, and then we were off to the races.
Yeah.
And that's another one of those 40-year relationships where I have a fantastic personal and professional relationship with this person who became my best friend because he too, just like Benny, Barry, and Philip and me, he was obsessed with Earth, Wind, and Fire. And I was like, wow, this guy knows more about Earth, Wind, and Fire than I do. He
Mhm.
knows more, and then wrote their comeback record. I mean, their current drummer, John Paris, who's from Oakland, very dear friend of mine. And to now, and we're talking about 50 years, like 1975. This is 50 years later.
Well,
To 50 years later still have a relationship with that band, it's a fantastic thing. It's
yeah.
like I wake myself up, I pinch myself like, but what did that all come from? They knew, Maurice White knew, like this is why this band, this is what this is about. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Not having to do with money, not having to do with fame. That's a byproduct of knowing why you're making the music.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Now who do I like? Who was my artist?
Oh my God. Michael Jackson. Let's see. There's Michael Jackson and and Prince. You have
Okay.
that.
I was
You have
gonna
that
say,
cool Prince.
don't you leave out my Prince. Well,
That cool Prince jacket the last time I saw you. It was beautiful.
honey, I am working on my Michael Jackson jacket right now.
Is that right?
Michael is getting ready to push Prince to the curb.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Prince jacket. I'm telling you, I had to stop wearing it because the attention was driving me nuts. People stopping me, where'd you get that jacket? Oh, could you make me one? No. So Michael, his that movie with Jafar, Jermaine's son, is coming out in April. So my
That's
goal
right.
is to have that jacket done before then,
Wow.
because I'm going to wear it to the movies.
Wow.
And it is so, I'm telling you, as I'm making it, I'm like, Michael would want this jacket himself.
Wow.
He would want this jacket because it's so him. It just sparkles.
Wow.
It's just I'm looking at it right now and it's just glistening. So I cannot wait to be able to wear it. And I won't be wearing it a lot either because I know it's going to do the same thing that Prince did.
Yeah.
But
Well,
so
so
my goal is to teach people how to do it. So I said I would create a class and show people how I bling out a jacket and how I even get my mind wrapped around it because it's a whole process that I go through.
are you using that Michael jacket as your model? Are you videotaping yourself making that?
Well, I started videotaping me doing it, but I don't like the videos that I'm creating. I don't
I
like
got
the way they look. So I just said, you know what? I'm gonna stop videotaping it, finish my
Okay.
jacket, and then I'm gonna make my husband a jacket. So then I'll videotape that.
Okay.
And then I'll
Look how old school you and I are. We say videotape. Who's got a video? I pulled out my phone and made a recording.
Oh yeah, you know what? Some things just cannot be changed, okay?
Well, so how old were you when Michael grabbed you?
Oh man, you know what? In 1969, it was
Ooh,
1969, I was in St. Louis and their first record that came out was called Big Boy.
wow.
I love that song and I still know every word to that song. So when we moved to come to San Francisco, I didn't have all of my records and I didn't have that one with me. And so I thought I could get it out here. Nobody knew about that record.
Wow.
And so I for years, hunted down that record, and I do have it now. And it's kind of everybody knows it now because, all the Jackson stuff they put out. But that song did it for me. I was like, oh my God, I fell in love with the Jacksons then. And then, of course, in 1970, when their ABC and all that other stuff came out, it was something about Michael that really, really struck me. Not only do we have the same birth date, but it was something about his personality. What I like about Michael and Prince is both their work ethic.
Hmm.
I love their work ethic, but one of the things that I don't like about them is that they really took it to a whole nother level. I think they kind of sold their soul to their work. I don't think the life balance was as balanced as it could have been.
Yeah. And that's that other thing about longevity, because
Yeah,
both of them died very young. At
yeah,
least in my
yeah.
opinion, died young. And when one has balance, hey, but we in America adore that. We adore the person who's courageously going out there and they don't have a life. I mean, and I'm talking, and it's not just in music. I mean, I look at people in business. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, this
yeah,
person,
yeah.
they gave it all to their
For
business.
their business. But you know what? When I think about like Michael and Prince and Elvis and I think iconic people have to go young. I really believe that, and that's what keeps them iconic.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually thought Michael was going to be gone by 25.
Wow.
So he did good going at 50.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he did really good. You know, um, but what he left behind, him and Prince, is everlasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everlasting, so yeah. So anyways,
Well,
that's
well, I teach an artist development class, and you and I are way into this development thing,
yes.
and and very often people think that they're there, right? Oh, I'm so great. And I was going, let's look at your video from your last gig, and let's look at a Prince video. And then they go, well, that's not fair. That's Prince. And I'm going, Prince was younger than you when he made that video.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's where you really you can't, like, if you want to compete, you got to compete. It's
Yeah.
not, that's just life.
But you know what? There's very few people, and I don't know if we'll ever see anything like Prince and Michael again, but maybe. I mean, because we thought
Really
that
love.
with what's his name? Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr. was also very much like that. And I think Chris Brown, and there's a few artists out there that really have that stamina and the presence. So they will be like that, but I don't know if they'll ever reach the heights that Michael and Prince did. I don't know.
I'm not going to agree with you there.
Okay, okay, that's
It's because world records are made to be broken.
absolutely. I agree with that. But I it's gonna be, I hope I get to see it. How about that?
Absolutely.
I
And
hope I
and
see it
that,
in my lifetime.
I'm with you. And that's why there are only a handful of them.
Right.
There are
I
only
do.
a
I would
handful
love
of
to see it. And
people.
it might be my little granddaughter for all I know.
That's right. You know?
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's the thing, that the right nurturing and the right mindset and all that other stuff is what makes that person rise way above, because you see it. You can
Yeah.
just, we say it all the time, like, oh, you can just see it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what happened with Michael. Well, I mean, when you listen, I mean, think about a song as simple as I'll Be There. What was he, 10, 11 when he sang that record?
Right. And the emotion that he had in there.
Oh,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that just comes with hard work. Yeah, it's just hard, you
But
know.
and that's what he would do. Michael would study people. He would read. He would, he'd love watching other performers
Yeah.
and seeing how they did. That's why he could imitate James Brown the way he did and Jackie Wilson, because those were his idols. Those were the people that he studied.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely a fascinating character. And so that's what I like about him and Prince both was their work ethic
Yeah.
and their I guess their quirkiness with how they had to have things done,
Sure.
a certain way, and the simple fact Michael didn't play instruments, but he could sound like any instrument he wanted it to be.
Right.
Just amazing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Michael, let's move on to another question.
Okay.
So, what advice would the Michael Aczon, who you are now, give to the Michael Aczon who was playing in a band to work his way through college?
Wow.
What you gonna say now?
Don't be so serious.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There are, it's that thing that we said about balance.
Hmm.
That I could have laughed a lot more along the way.
Oh, is that
And
right?
oh yeah, yeah. And it's one of the things that I try to tell kids now, right? And sometimes it's not fair, right? I go, oh yeah, yeah, the platinum record, the gold record, like the sports car, the Grammy stuff. I tell kids like that stuff really doesn't count. It's there, it's nice. But as I look back now, it's like it's the relationships. That's why I wrote that in the book.
Yeah.
It's the relationships that are really, really, and I wrote that book 20 years ago. So, I believe it even more now that, oh, these long-term relationships, and they're just a handful, right? Boy, if you have a couple of those, that's the real gold right there. And I think that I did embrace it at a young age, but I could have embraced it even more.
Yeah.
I could have embraced it even more.
Well, hindsight is always
Oh,
2020.
absolutely.
And then too, I mean, you're a grandfather now, so you got these little babies that are
Oh
really
my
teaching
God.
you. They're
As a
teaching
matter of fact,
you.
my grandniece is going to be right alongside your granddaughter because she has her first professional play that she's in
Yeah, okay.
tomorrow. Opening night is tomorrow.
All right.
I'm going to a gala in a week.
Oh,
And that's that balance,
yeah.
right? I'm
Yeah.
telling her like, okay, this is great. They wrote this article about you and about the play and her photos in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going like everybody at school's looking at, and I said, and then next week when that play's over, people aren't even they're not going to care. You know what I mean? Because your celebrity moment is over. Your
Right.
viral moment is
That five
over.
minutes of fame is for real, huh?
But you're still you. And if you're going to try to be that next Michael Jackson, then now you know how it feels, and now you're going to work harder. You're just going to work for it.
Mhm.
Regardless of what that's the other thing that I would say to the 19-year-old me is, yes, we care about other people, but don't be such a people pleaser. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I I work so hard at making people like me. Like, yeah, not that I don't need people to like me. I'm a nice guy and everything, but it's if you're true to you, then the right people will come your way. So that's what I tell him.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So, Michael, as an educator and longtime advocate for artists, what's the most important lesson you wish artists learned before they needed a lawyer?
Wow. It's the most important thing I wish they'd learned before they needed a lawyer. I keep coming back to music publishing.
You know what? Before it's over, the audience is going to be proficient in music publishing.
Well, but look at Whitney Houston, who didn't write she didn't write any songs.
Okay.
She didn't write any song.
Okay.
So people will come back to me and they will say, well, why are you saying, talk about music publishing and all that other stuff? And then there's a Whitney Houston who she never made a nickel from writing songs. So why is music publishing so important,
Important to.
to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because she became the conduit for the great songwriters. So of course she had to understand, where am I going to get those great songs? Who are the great music publishers? Who are the people who are in touch with the people who write the great songs? And that's why she became the great artist that she was without having to write any songs. She didn't need to make a nickel from that. She made the money on sales of records. She made this money on tours. But she knew that I and she was guided by the best. She was
Yeah.
guided by
Clive
Clive
Davis,
Davis.
right? Yeah. Clive. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what they did. They went out and found those right songs. No, but the other one too is to understand the relationships. I keep coming back to that. I know I sound like a broken record, but understand what the other person does. If I'm an artist, what do the people backing me up? When I say like my backup band,
Right. Right.
what do they want out of this? What does this producer want out of this? Then the deals become so much clearer, and everybody understands what everybody else is trying to do. That I just passed on doing a deal recently. I would have made good money from it, but I could tell from the relationship between the people, the two parties, that one of the parties already had attitude. And I said, I'm not the right person for this deal. You need somebody who's going to go in who wants to deal with somebody with attitude. And that's not me.
Right. Right.
That's not me. And now, if they had a relationship with the both sides understood the other, then I don't think either side would have any kind of, any kind of attitude thing. But it was there.
Yeah.
Well, and I literally just turned that down like 2 days ago. Just said, nah, find another lawyer. I don't do this anymore. Right? I don't deal with this anymore.
Yeah. Wow. Y'all heard that? Don't mess with Mike.
No, no, no. It's just I said you're gonna get the right person. You'll get the right
Yeah.
person who's gonna
Yeah.
make this happen. But it's because the communication wasn't there, and there was just kind of a lack of understanding of what does the other person get out of this. So the
Sure.
more,
Absolutely.
and that's just like anything else. Just like if somebody's going to come and paint your house, like they give you a quote, and you're like, that's a lot of money to paint my house. But if you understand that, hey, they're going to do it right,
Right.
and they're
You
going to
don't mind
bring all
paying.
this gear, and they're going to be here for 5 days, actually, sanding everything down, prepping, and all that other stuff, you're going to understand at the end of the day, this person's making $2 an hour. Like, oh yeah, I don't know how to do that, so it's worth paying for it.
Yeah.
And it's not different. Understand the business.
Yeah. Wow. So if there's anything that you guys need to remember from him, publishing, relationships. All
That's
right.
it.
So, Michael, these are my closing remarks to you. I have had so much fun that,
Oh,
there's still so much more we could talk about.
and I hope we do.
This has been a very important and timely conversation. Michael reminds us that talent may open the door, but knowledge, preparation, and integrity are what sustains a career. I want to sincerely thank Michael for sharing not just his expertise, but his decades of experience guiding artists, educating future professionals, and advocating for independent careers. Your work has shaped careers, protected voices and strengthened the foundation of this industry in ways many people may never fully see, but they absolutely benefit from. And to everyone listening, conversations like this is how we grow. If this conversation moves you, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe, share with intention, and come back. This is Straight Talking with Kelly, where real conversations happen. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So, Michael, again, thank you so much for coming. Do you want to say one last thing to these guys?
No, but I'll say something to you. Bless you, Kelly. Thank you so much for having me on board. I can't wait to do this again.
Oh, yeah, no, we're definitely going to do it again. It was fun. So, thank you.
All right, take
See
care.
ya.